I'm John Bommarito. This is Acoustic Alternatives from Grove Studios in Ypsilanti. If you're a musician in the Detroit or Ann Arbor area and you're going, where should I practice? My neighbors seem to be really annoyed every time I try and practice in my house. This is a place you can come to. They've got rooms of all sizes. There's a deluxe room, a half size of that room. And even DJs have been practicing here as well, making a lot of noise sometimes when I'm doing my podcast. But that's what this place is for. Podcast studio obviously exists in this building. Ypsilanti is the place where it's at. It's a pretty cool little place. I think Mike has been here before. Mike Ward Psychosongs is my guest today on the newest podcast. I think this is number 55. I should have paid attention so we could have celebrated whatever number you're representing. But Mike, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Long overdue on doing this. You were a supporter of, basically you were helping me try to get this going by making a document that I could send to people to say, hey, look, John's doing a podcast. So I appreciate that. You were there going,
it's not I'm happy to do it. It's some of the skills that I had from my previous life, I can use to help people. That's what I like to do.
Me too. Whoa, I was making a change on my end that I needed to make, and now I see what I did. So there's going to be a slight change in the,
Oh, that's much better.
It's a little louder, and it sounds more like you. I think it's a phantom mic versus not phantom mic thing, but now everybody knows.
Okay.
So there we go. All right. Anyway, so new album is available. Love Never Rests.
Yep.
Show that to the cameras.
Yeah.
And Mike's released quite a bit of music over the years, but just recently, an EP called Troubled Times, the not suitable for radio airplay career advice. And the albums We Wonder, The Darkness and the Light, Particles to Pearls, and again, the newest one, Love Never Rests. Some people, I don't know, do you ever worry that people are going to prejudge you on the name that you've chosen, Psychosongs? Because if I didn't know you, hadn't met you, I would assume it was punk music.
Yeah, I think I've had that discussion with some people. Once they learn some people are intrigued by it, but once they learn the kind of the background of it, that it's both a moniker that I've had for a long time of Psycho Ward, but also the fact that I did it to kind of separate myself on iTunes and Spotify, because I had all this other Mike Ward stuff on my pages, and I had to do something to separate it, and that was what came to mind immediately. I probably should have used my middle name. Now I understand why Christopher Paul Stelling and so many people use their
Michael W. Smith.
Right. They use all their names, or they or it's M. Dunn Ward, or it's something like that.
Yeah.
So
it hasn't hurt you.
It hasn't. It hasn't. I do think there are, sometimes there are people who will look at it like Psychosongs.
Yeah, so it almost should be a punk album based on that, really. Yeah. That's what they were thinking. So, All right, newest album. Would you like to start with something from that?
Yeah, definitely, I would.
Introduce the song.
This is called The Currency Forgiveness, and it's where the title comes from. It's sort of within the lyrics of this song. And it's a song about relationships and about thinking about the things that keep you together, thinking about, when things are tough, what do you want to remember about the other person? So without any further delay, I will play this. Coffee brewed hours before she's awake. Hot water saved for the shower he takes. Drives with no sense of direction. Sometimes accepts a course correction. Listens to the same story told 100 times. Waits patiently at the end of the line. Holding doors, holding tongues. All evens out when our days are done. Worth all you have and nothing less. All the tears and years that you invest, they're from the the moment you met. No IOUs, no repaid debts, in the currency of forgiveness. An apology long before there's a fight. No admission of who's wrong or who's right. A half-hearted confession from some past life indiscretion, worth all you have and nothing less. It's a beautiful, complicated mess. Will it all add up to happiness? No IOUs, no repaid debts, in the currency of forgiveness. It's a long haul, there's bumps in the road. It's only heavy if you don't share the load. No regrets, big or small. Always say I love you before nightfall. Worth all you have and nothing less. Life keeps you up at night, but love never rests. Isn't this why you both said yes? No IOUs, no repaid debts, in the currency of forgiveness. In the currency of forgiveness.
Mike Ward Psychosongs is my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives. The Currency of Forgiveness is the lead track from the newest album, Love Never Rests, and it makes me wonder how one arrives at a phrase like that, the currency of forgiveness.
You know, I guess the inspiration for the song came from a letter that my best friend and my wife's first cousin, we met at their wedding 44 years ago. And they have a daughter, and one of her best friends was getting married. And Pam wrote this letter to the couple. And in addition to a gift, she wrote them a letter about, just here are the things you want to remember to when things are, not perfect, or, when they don't go well, or when they do go well, cherish those little moments. And I had been, I'm in a songwriting group with Kyle Rashi and Josh Rose and a number of other people. And I actually had that month, I got to make the prompt. And I made the prompt forgiveness. And because there was a part of this letter that was about, make sure you're able to forgive, make sure you can forget, things like that. And the currency of forgiveness, just when I wrote it down, I just thought, well, then if I go in that direction, here's the way I want the song to go. I want things to add up. I want things to invest. I want things that, there's some financial sort of phrases in there, but I wanted to always keep them with relationships.
That's
too.
nice.
How you weigh that out.
And it's good wedding advice, too.
It is good wedding advice, I think. Yeah.
The wedding advice
definitely.
I remember from my aunt was don't keep score.
Exactly. Don't keep score.
Kind of same
Yeah.
lines.
Yep.
So there
Yep.
you go. It wasn't about games. It was about other scores. But anyway. So tell me about you growing up. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Port Huron, Michigan.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. It's
over here.
Yeah, right. It's the easternmost point of Michigan, actually, right on the edge of Canada. Mm-hmm. And we spent a lot of time in Canada. I'm the seventh of 8 kids.
Wow.
My dad was a dentist. My mom, she was originally from Providence, Rhode Island. My dad from Detroit. They met in the war, the World War II. And they moved when my dad finished dental school. He had a friend who had a practice up there, and they moved there. And they really, really loved it. We loved it. It's a kind of a idyllic place in the summertime, especially. And, when you have 8 kids, my mom wanted us out of the house as much as possible. So we had a big backyard, but we spent a lot of time at the beaches, and it was a great place.
Well, I know that your sport of choice is hockey. But
yes.
What was your summer sport? Did you have a summer sport? Because
sailing.
Sailing.
Yeah, my dad. When we were, so by the time I came along, so I'm the 7th out of 8. He was when I was really little, we had a motorboat called the Moby Dick, and there's one of my songs on the We Wonder that's about being left in Canada.
Sorry, I don't have that one.
That's all right. There's no more in print.
Okay,
but it's called The Other Side, and I got left in Canada when I was like 6 or 7, and because my sister brought somebody home in the car, my mom counted heads, and they took off.
Yeah.
So I'm there at the Sarnia Yacht Club, and I could see the yellow car going over the bridge.
Bye, Mom.
And there's no cell phones, and there's, but they got home, they realized it, they called the yacht club. And of course, I made, I'm like this poor little boy, and all these older folks, these sailor friends of my mom and dad's are like, oh, you poor little thing. Do you want a Coca-Cola? Do you want some chips?
Yeah, you got the treatment that day.
So it was fun.
Did you ever feel like you were competing to be heard in a family of 8? Or?
Yeah. There's sort of that in a big family like that. There's that part of it, and then there's also there's a song on the new record called "I Follow." And it starts with that notion of I followed my sisters and brothers, because you do. There's no time for the 7th or 8th kids to have a tantrum if you're going somewhere. It's like you get in line and you just go. And so I think that you get raised as much by your older brothers and sisters as you do by your parents when you're that far down on the line.
I was only the 4th of 4, but I also learned what not to do by watching them. Oh, don't do that. Lori got in trouble for doing that. Don't do that.
Exactly.
So,
being observant is a good thing, and sort of sometimes, I would hold back, and I think for a long time, even when I was in social settings, I was that way. I would sort of observe and hold back. I'm fortunate to be married to a woman who's sort of she could have a conversation with the wall. She's amazing, because we'll be anywhere and she'll be in a conversation in 2 seconds. I'm more
wallflower.
Yeah.
Never met a stranger. Wallflower. Yeah. I know people like that. I'm in a group of friends like that, and I'm the wallflower as well.
Okay.
So I get it. I mean, despite the fact that I use my voice and have used my voice for a living, like you kind of do right now, it's like I'm probably the quietest person in the room if it's a room full of people. So you and I aren't that different, I guess.
Right.
Being at the bottom, you're like, you're just wait. Can I be heard?
Exactly. Exactly.
Never mind.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yeah. There definitely is.
So then music comes along at some point. I know you were in choir in high school. I learned that from another interview. Was that because you were so into music you decided to gravitate to choir, or everyone else did it, so you did it? How did you choose?
No, I actually started in the choir when I was like 7.
Oh, okay.
And we had it was a Catholic church. So I was like a soprano when I was like really little.
And puberty.
Yeah. It was like, I remember there was a movie about the Vienna choir boys. And so we all went to see that, and we were like, wow, that was pretty cool.
How about The Sound of Music? That could have been inspirational for a family like yours.
Yes.
The family Von Ward.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because my mom had a baby grand piano in the front room that her dad had given to her. And she wanted us all to play an instrument. So there was trumpet, clarinet, flute. I tried piano a little bit when I was young, but I was more vocal oriented. And then my dad's Gibson guitar, which I have now, she gave it to my dad in 1947. He didn't want to play it. He didn't want to get calluses on his dental fingers.
Okay, fair.
But he had no problem working on sailboats and doing carpentry. I don't know. I think he was just as happy to have all of us play it, and that's what I learned on, and I am fortunate enough to still have it.
It's been a few years then since you were that age.
Yeah. But
it's in great shape. That very guitar?
No. This is the Martin. I don't bring the Gibson out of the house much. It's a 47.
So you want to protect it?
Yeah. I do bring it out sometimes. I've got a song that the next time I record, I don't know when that will be, but the next time I record, I have a song dedicated to that guitar that I'll play that guitar on and maybe figure out a way to get it out of the house sometimes.
So music obviously is a love of yours, but you didn't really start doing it seriously until you retired from your day job. So what place did it hold in your life between the ages of, let's say, 15 and when you retired, which is 65, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, so, I mean, music was always huge. Growing up, I mean, we all, having older brothers and sisters, the advantage there was, man, I was exposed to so much great music because my older sisters and brother were, they came along, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, all of, the real early folk, Pete Seeger. My mom and dad had like Odetta albums and Ian and Sylvia. They also had like, Shelley Berman records and Lenny Bruce records. They just had everything. And so I got really into Simon and Garfunkel early on. I remember my sister bought a single of I Am a Rock.
Great tune.
And then she went away for like a couple months in the summer to work at Higgins Lake as a waitress. And when she got back, I had worn the grooves out of it. Wow. And I got pounded, so I had to use my allowance to go buy her a new.
Should have just bought her the album.
I know. We were all buying singles back then. Yeah. It was cheaper. But, and then I had pretty diverse tastes all the way, up through high school and college. I didn't really start playing guitar again. I took lessons at 13. I wasn't a good student. And then in my junior year of high school, this friend of mine, he played guitar and we sang together and we did a lot of covers like that. And we were doing that for a couple of years. And then he, right out of high school, he said, I'm getting married, so I got to get a job and I'm not going to be doing this. So it was either, learn to play myself or, find somebody else. So I learned, and then I just sat down and started learning 3-chord songs. Neil Young, whatever. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young was big at that point. So I just really hunkered down. I was like just out of high school. I was at community college. I was taking advertising classes, and I kind of had that direction of art and design. But music was always there. I started writing songs back then. They weren't very good, but after my third year of college, I went to Siena Heights College in Adrian, Michigan.
Okay.
And I was there because my brother is a fine artist. He's a sculptor and a lithographer. And he really urged me to, as opposed to doing commercial art, which he kind of looked down on, he thought I should at least try fine arts. And Siena Heights was where our high school art teacher went. So it was a good choice for me. But I knew right away this was not a good fit for me. I was scared to death of an empty canvas. And so I switched all my classes I took photography, graphic design, and I took 2 creative writing classes. And I was writing some poems, and I the instructor that I had, the professor I had, he said, he looked at a couple of them and he said, these read like songs. And I said, well, they kind of are. And he said, well, if you're writing songs and you want to bring them into class and sing them, go ahead.
Cool.
That was huge.
Yeah.
So then I had
Get credit for that. Why not?
Yeah, it was great. So then, I'm in a dorm. So late at night, I'd play guitar and sing, and they were a great audience for my original songs. They put up with them. And occasionally I would get to play in a bar there in Adrian. And but another student gave me a great piece of advice. He was a real experience. He was a bass player in a band in Cleveland. And he said, at the middle of the semester, he said, you sing really good, but you don't play very good. He says, my advice to you would be to take the next few months and don't sing. Just play. Just learn to play better. And he was right. He was right. I was, no matter what, I was only doing 3 chords. No matter how many chords were really supposed to be in that song, I was coming as close to wherever I could to just use 3 or 4 chords. So that was a good moment.
Surprised you didn't become more like the Ramones. You could have been more psycho word punk, 3 chords. Speaking of songs, would you like to do another one? Take a little break from the chat?
Sure.
All right. What song would you like to do this time, Mike?
Why don't, you know what? It's funny. I think I'd like to do this other song from the new record.
Okay.
This is I Follow. And this is another song that came out of my songwriting group. And I actually took a mulligan for the month. Well, you can take 2 mulligans a year. And I took a mulligan because I had nothing at midnight, whatever month it was. And I wrote in and I said, I'm taking a mulligan this month. And then the next day, I started working on this song. And I posted it. And just based on the reaction, I was like, okay, I think that's something that I should work on. And Kyle helped me on the second verse on this one. I followed my sisters and brothers. I followed the temptation of others. Worked hard to fit in inside a different skin. I begged, stole and borrowed. Mostly I followed. Morning mass, a heathen acolyte. Heaven or hell, well, it could be either side. Said all my childhood confessions, not sure now about any of those lessons. I follow Stations of the Cross, gave credit for the wins, took blame for every loss, prayed that those wafers were actually the savior. Cheap wine was the blood I swallowed. I served and followed. Cut off jeans, faded t-shirts, six-pack cigarettes, driving round the outskirts, wasting our lives, our futures, our pasts, hoping to death that the die had not been cast. I followed the dream we were sold, could not tell the truth from the lies we were told, tried to outrun things that I've done just to make it through tomorrow. Oh, I followed to avoid detection, hide my own reflection, an acne-filled complexion, a guilt-ridden erection, falling far short of perfection. Now I follow road less traveled, turn by turn, the secret gets unraveled. I will follow, girl, to the ends of the earth, my soul no longer hollow. My heart I follow. Oh, I follow. My heart I follow. Oh, I follow. My heart I follow.
Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Mike Ward Psychosongs, my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives. I Follow can be found on the new album, Love Never Rests. And you can find that on your website. Still available on a physical CD, digital, other forms that are, vinyl?
No vinyl, but we do have USB drives that are kind of cool. We got these USB drives that are in the shape of a credit card, and it's a terabyte drive. So I put everything, all the albums are on that. All the albums, the EP, the single are on that, and we sell that. You can put it in your car.
That's nice.
Because so many cars, like our car doesn't have.
It's going to be a sad day when I don't have a CD player in my car.
I know.
I'm going to fight and scratch and claw.
We've actually talked about the next car we get, we would pay extra just to get one again.
I'm going to. I'm sure I will. I don't think I'll let it go. We're at Grove Studios in Ypsilanti, and I've talked about it already, but I need to just mention it again. Grove has been an excellent host to the podcast. The reason I'm doing the podcast, actually, is Grove Studios, and their encouragement when I lost my radio gig. They wanted me to do something that I loved, and they knew that this would be a place that I could find, a way to talk to my friends in the music industry, some that are passing through town. If you're new to the podcast and you're just checking it out because you're a friend of Mike's, I've done 54 other ones, including Glenn Phillips and Brian Vander Ark and Jonathan Brooke and somebody that stayed at your house recently. Sam Robbins was here. Lots of excellent. Stephen Kellogg was an excellent guest recently.
Oh, yeah.
Check out all those, either audio or video. They're available in both forms. And I'm still on a bit of a learning curve on how to make everything look great and sound great. But I've been enjoying doing it, and I'm grateful again to Grove for making it possible. So thanks to them for being here. A quick run back to the where you grew up, and then we'll divert into other subjects.
Okay.
I just meant to mention something because you and I have that in common. We grew up in border towns, and we got to hear Canadian radio, and that not every songwriter gets to hear the Canadian songwriters that we get to hear.
That is true.
And there's some really great stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And you get, because, I mean, the biggest radio station that we listened to was CKLW.
Same here.
But we also got Keener,
Yep.
and we got, I mean, and you're right. You realize the broad spectrum that we got to hear of the Canadians.
Ian
it was
and
great.
Sylvia were Canadian too, weren't they?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was not a big hit, I'm sure, in California.
Right.
So
right.
things that might have influenced you as a songwriter are different than they would be just because of where you grew up. Completely
True.
different. So just
Yeah.
circling back to that because it was in my head as something I wanted to bring up. So if somebody wanted to get to know you, what's the best way? What's the best path? Would it be through a meal, through a song, or playing hockey with you? Maybe a little bit of all three.
Maybe a little of all three, but I think a song and a meal is a good way. I think if you play hockey with me, you might see a different.
That's
then
for
you might
psycho.
see the psycho side a little more.
That's kind of what I was getting at, I think, is that there is that doesn't, you can't pick up on that guy when you're sitting across from him having a conversation.
No.
He doesn't appear to me at all.
No, and when I'm on the ice, I'm
Different.
I'm an agitator.
And that comes from being nearly Canadian as well, I imagine.
I think it does. Yeah,
Next to the border and growing
yeah.
up near
That definitely comes from being the seventh out of eight, and
being near a lake as well.
what's that?
And being near a lake that freezes.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had a huge backyard too, and we were excellent rink builders. Although I think we had more consistent cold back then. I think anyway.
I feel like it too.
Felt like it.
Well, from childhood, you eventually found your way to Detroit, working in an advertising agency for many years.
Yeah.
Recently retired. We discussed the whole quick succession of records that have come out since your retirement. And actually, maybe, did the first one come out while you were still working? I can't remember.
We Wonder was just on the tail end of retirement. It was 2018.
Okay.
So I retired in 2017. But I had... there's actually another set of recordings that got released when I turned 60. And that kind of lit a fire under me because my kids, my daughter Amelia and my son Danny, when I turned 60, they took a bunch of my home demos and one finished song, which was called The Stream, which I recorded over in Lansing with a friend of mine, Steve Curran, who owns Harvest Productions.
Okay.
And they took these songs and they found an independent distributor in like the UK. And all of a sudden on my 60th birthday, they said, well, you've got an album on iTunes and Spotify now. And so it was like, okay.
That's a pretty cool gift.
Yeah, it's a really cool gift. But in the same year, my son had made this pilot for a TV show he was writing. And in the pilot, he used a couple of the songs. And he told me, he said, Dad, he says, I get as many comments about the songs as I do about, the piece that I wrote. Yeah. He said, so I thought, well, maybe I need to do this.
That's cool.
So we started going to like open mics. We started going to, trying to meet people all over. We were living in Farmington Hills at that point, and then we decided to move to Detroit. And in our building, there was an open mic. So we started to meet a whole bunch of people there. And then we decided Ash Coffee was opening a second location right near us, and he wanted to do an open mic. So we started running that. And our goal was to curate it with, I listened to enough music that I knew what I liked and I knew what I wanted to hear. And so when we would go to an open mic and hear somebody, we'd go, hey, we do an open mic down here.
Yeah, come play with me.
And I have to say, there were some really special nights where we had, the lineup that we had was just unbelievable. And that was a great learning experience. But it also, from a hospitality standpoint, we got to meet everybody and, just hang out with them in that kind of a situation. So that was good. That was a good entry point for me into Detroit music.
That might explain something that I was wondering how you managed to achieve so quickly, because I know people who've been doing it longer than you that aren't as connected to the rest of the scene as you are. Like, you've done a really good job of networking your way and making connections, and you've got a great lineup of guests on every record. I'm like, how did you do that so quickly? It just started. I mean, just started, even though you've been at it for a long time, but
Well, I will tell you that we work hard at it.
Yeah.
We do. But also, I think one of the real turning points was going to Folk Alliance in 2019. It was in Grand Rapids. I had just started being part of Songwriters Anonymous at Trinity House and meeting those men and women there. And then we went to Farm. And Farm, just like Angie's remark, Angie's my wife. Angie is my partner and everything. But she said, I think you found your people. And that was true. And that was where I met Kyle Rashi. I met Andy Baker. And most importantly, for The Darkness and the Light, I met Mike Gentry. And we started corresponding, and I knew that he had produced some records, and he was producing one for Lyndon Thoburn, her first record, Scarecrow. And he came downtown, and we must have talked for 3 hours. And
he's an easy conversation.
Yes,
he's a sweet guy.
And I put some earphones on, and he said, "Listen to this." And he played me a couple of the tracks that Dave Roof and he were doing with Lyndon. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's meet Dave Roof. And so we went up to his place, and we went there as sort of a fact-finding. We went to meet him. We had met a few other studios as well. And we sat down with Dave, and he said, "Why don't you play a song?" And so I did. He goes, "You got another one?" So 18 songs later.
Wow.
So it was then the learning experience. But those early connections, that Mike and Dave helped me with on that record, and like Tessa and Allison and Jimmy of Giacomo, they came to our open mic. So that's why I knew I wanted them on the record. Other people that had come to the open mic, that was Bill Sadley. We had all these different people that we thought, okay, let's take advantage. And then Dave ended up playing a lot of instruments on that first record.
Because he can.
Yeah, because he can. And then on the second one, we on Particles, we went a little broader. That project, we recorded 21 songs, and then 10 of them became Particles. The rest are the EP, and some are on Love Never Rests. But, Aaron Markowitz and Michael Shimon and Dave Keeney, and then the violin players, I've been blessed with that between Lucy Little on my first record and on Particles, and this one, Grant Flick, and then on cello, Sarah Gibson. Just amazing contributions.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
It has been.
And I have to say, on this record, I mean, when you can put Annie Bacon, Amy Petty, Jill Jack, Judy Brown, Giacomo girls, and my daughter.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
You're pretty blessed.
I am really blessed. And I will say, Saturday night, our show with Kyle, Annie came and sat in between us, and she sang on both Currency and All We're Hoping For.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about the new record, Love Never Rests,
Yeah.
who is this handsome couple on the cover? Who is that?
That is our wedding picture. That's from our wedding
That's
in
beautiful.
1980.
1980.
Big old mustache.
Yeah. You look a little bit like Weird Al with a less
Oh,
poofy
yeah.
hair. There's a Weird Al look about your face. And this is a love album of sorts.
Yeah, it is. It is. Whether it's love that's that you found or love that maybe wasn't found. There's a couple songs on there that are, the Lost Love Letters one, and then There I Was, the one that Jill Jack helped me get started on. Those are more about love that didn't happen. But then there's also love for mankind, love for this planet, love for this world that we have that finds its way in there too.
And family love. Your mom is a co-write on this record.
Yes.
Your wife's on the cover.
Yep.
You've written a song with your daughter. I mean, come on. This is...
Yeah. No, it is.
You've done a nice job of encompassing, what love is in many different forms.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks.
Looking at a couple of the songs in particular, Compact Life, I feel like you almost wrote that because I still buy compact discs, and you wanted to write around that somehow. Like every time I hear it, I go, did you write that because we have conversations about compact discs?
Yes.
Couldn't be about me. No. But you've got your compact car and your compact wife. It's like, that's an extremely clever song. Was that also a song prompt song, or is that just...
No, it wasn't. Actually, it was, I was just playing around. I had this idea about compact car, a lot easier to park.
Yeah. That's what I had.
And it went from there. And that one I have to thank Annie Capps and Dennis Kingsbury, Floyd King. They're part of the Song Salon, which is a Monday group that I'm in. And they heard that song and they were like, oh man, that's really great. That's fun. But they had a really nice suggestion. Dennis had a nice suggestion of like, well, you've got compact. Maybe you need something in there about expanding or, and he kind of led me to the break, which I think is a nice relief for the song. But yeah,
it's a fun one.
And it always is a good song to play right before you want to send people to the merch table.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I heard it. Like, this is smart. This is a guy who used to be in sales, maybe. Who knows?
Well, and so often I will get done with a show and I'll come off, I'll get done and Angie will go, you might want to mention that you have CDs and that you have...
Some people do forget that. If you have them, you should. This record also kind of goes a couple of times on a bit of a spiritual journey more than your other records as well. I mean, if I felt like I Follow was more of a spiritual song than you described it as initially, like something about your siblings, Sunday Morning, clearly.
Yeah, those have...
It's a different take than your previous albums, and not that you don't have a spiritual side to you, but it's never come out on a record before.
No, and I'm a very lapsed Catholic, and lots of Catholic guilt stored up in there still, I'm sure. And I Follow was a little bit of a release for that. And Sunday Morning, that's a poem that my mom wrote. We found it after she passed away. We found a floppy disk. She taught herself how to, bought an Apple IIe when she was like 70 and learned how to use it. And,
wow.
There was a floppy disk that had her recipes on it, and we all wanted them. So I took it to work and asked one of our IT guys can you get...
Yeah, what's on here?
Can you get what's on here off of here onto a format that we can use? So he gave me a CD of it, and there were 2 folders. There was one with recipes and one with poems. And this poem just spoke to me. I printed it and I had it in a little frame for a long time. And I didn't change a word. I thought about it. I thought about, should I have a chorus? Should I do something? And then once I started playing the melody, and worked on it, I just thought, no, I'm not going to change anything.
That's really sweet.
And on that song, Dave Roof plays piano, and I'm playing guitar, and he played bass, and that was it. Because my mom played piano, and I wanted to have it be mostly piano and a little bit of guitar.
What a great way to honor her.
Yeah.
Sweet. Obviously, you can't do that one because there's no piano. But what song would you like to do next?
I'm thinking that I'd like to move backwards to Particles.
Sure.
That's okay. This is one of my favorite songs.
Sitting right here in front of me.
Off of Particles, and it was I have a habit of writing songs while I'm riding a bike. I stop, and either put it in my phone, yep, or I'm Angie's about a half a mile ahead of me, and I'm stopped and I'm typing into my phone. And this was one of those songs. I had this opening line about broken teeth and broken strings, and then from there I developed the song, and it's kind of a tribute to those guys men and women who play bars, play all over the place for their whole life and really don't hit the big time. It's called Broken. Had broken teeth and broken strings, had no more songs left to sing. Been on the road since '76, playing mostly drinks and tips. Drove a beat up old blue Chevy van, slept in the back on some bags of sand. From El Paso up to Estes Park, well, he took his time making his musical mark. And you could hear him sing, I can't turn water into wine, turn left when I should have turned right. I could turn the other cheek, turn myself in for being weak. Get the hell out of my own head, make my peace where I make my bed, where I make my bed. An awkward man never got close to anyone. Lyrics told the tale of a life on the run. Fell for Rita, who deserved much more than a tired old truck stop troubadour who played Willie Whalen and some Buck Owens. When the going got tough, that's when he got going. Never forgot the words to any song, still couldn't remember what street he lived on. And you could hear him sing, I can't turn water into wine, turn left when I should have turned right. I could turn the other cheek, turn myself in for being weak. Get the hell out of my own head, make my peace where I make my bed, where I make my bed. 2 packs a day, cheap case of beer. He was running out of minutes, hours, and years. Found him face down, his lips were frozen blue. Was his final show at the Red Horseshoe. And you could hear him sing, I can't turn water into wine. Turn left when I should have turned right. I could turn the other cheek, turn myself in for being weak. Get the hell out of my own head. Make my peace where I make my bed. Where I make my bed. Where I make my bed.
Mike Ward of Mike Ward Psychosongs is my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives from a recent album. That's a track called Broken. And it is not on the newest album, which is going to be, again, here on the camera. Love Never Rests. Trying to help you out a little bit there.
Yeah.
Be your marketing guy. So there was an EP in between. I mentioned that briefly in the intro.
Yeah.
But why did that not end up on the new record? Is that thematically?
Thematically, yeah. What happened was, like I said, when we went into Particles, I had 21 songs, and 2 of those songs were, it's called WWTFS, which is What Would the Flag Say? And it really was a song about this country, what was going on politically. I'm fairly political. I do work for the Rural Democrats, and I do a lot of volunteer work. And so I had that song, and I had another one called Immigration Nation, which was about the immigration situation. And we had those 2 songs, and we thought, we want to, let's do an EP. And at first it was just those 2. And then when we had recorded the initial tracks for The Darkness and the Light, there was a song called Wishing Well. And when we finished it, we recorded it and finished it, but we didn't put it on the record because we thought, gee, it'll be obsolete by then, right? Because it's real political. It's about seek the truth, Don't seek the proof and don't fall for the untruths. And I went back and listened to that, and I was talking to Dave about it, Dave Roof, who's a fairly political guy. We have great conversations, and he said, oh my gosh, we got to finish that. We got to put those 3 together and get it out there. At this point, this was Labor Day, we decided, and we had it out, put it out in a month. We finished it, got it out there for the election cycle. And I will say, percentage-wise, it was only 3 songs, but I think I had more play from those 3 songs than I, percentage-wise, than I did from any of the other work.
That's pretty great.
It really struck a chord with a lot of the DJs, the folk DJs. A couple of them wrote me notes and said, I think this is, your best work. And it was surprising because we were really putting it out there because we didn't think they fit necessarily as strong with the other 2 with the other albums.
Yeah.
Because they were a little bit off of what those 2 albums were doing.
Being a fan of physical media as you were, I was kind of surprised they didn't end up as like bonus tracks and then the 3 separate, like as a little separate, like included on the album, but not. So, yeah, I mean,
I guess I could have done that.
10th anniversary edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greatest hits, right.
Greatest hits. 3 bonus tracks previously not available on CD.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time that happens, vinyl will have gone away again. I love vinyl. Don't get me wrong.
I know.
But $30 for a record, no, I'm not doing it. Sorry.
I'm not
I'm not following your trend. I'm going to continue with this convenient format until it completely goes away. But yeah, I was just kind of surprised they didn't show up on the album anyway, just because digital only doesn't seem like the Mike I know. It's a physical media guy. What happened?
Yeah.
Was there a period when you weren't doing this for a living that you felt pent up because you weren't doing this during those years? You're like, I want to finish working my day job so I can go write songs.
Oh, absolutely. And my part of my job that I had was I was creating commercials. So I was a lot of those times, whether you're doing TV or radio, you're developing music to go with it or soundtracks to go with it. So I was always keenly involved in that and really enjoyed the time spent in the studio. And when I did the stream, I think I recorded the stream at Steve Kern's studio 16 years ago. And I know for a fact that I said to her, I said, if I could just do that, if I could just be in the studio and create music all day, I would, that's what I would do.
You'd be happier.
Yeah. And, I had a great job. I do not bemoan what I did. I got to travel the world. My kids got incredible experiences. And I did some really good work. I won some awards, and I designed the Detroit Zoo water tower. And
really?
Yeah. So I worked on some really, really sweet pieces of business, the Detroit Zoo. And then I worked on Chiquita Bananas for about 16 years. And some other cool pieces of business that.
And
that
guess
were
what
fun.
jingle just popped into my head?
Oh yeah.
Thanks a lot for that.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. That's a funny thing that I worked on Chiquita. One of our charges in the last 6 or 7 years that we were on the business was to bring back the jingle and to give it. We had to write specifically within the body of the song. We had to change a couple lines so that there was a little bit of health orientation, nutrition orientation.
Modernize it a bit.
Yep. So we did that, and then we modernized the track as well. And Gary Nestor is a Detroit composer, and we demoed people from all over. But Gary won it out, and the singer that won out was Susan Calloway.
Oh, cool.
And
I was a fan of her when she was in Red Sea.
And now she's doing Final Fantasy.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Tried to get her on the podcast a long time ago. I actually tried to get her in the studio when I still had a radio station to go to, and she has never done it, but that's okay.
Oh.
Not everybody does. I get no's from time to time, or they just ignore me. Anyway.
But it was, and so I've had those connections with all these different people, and I know that there were other singers in this market who also auditioned who didn't get it.
Yeah. Well, as far as songwriting is concerned, I mean, we cover a lot of subjects on your albums, but if you said you've listened to a fair amount of the podcast, so you've heard the one with Chuck Brodsky.
Yeah.
And if you're not a Chuck Brodsky fan, you should be. And he writes a lot of songs about baseball. So why doesn't Mike Ward write songs about hockey? Why doesn't he take the historical, let's make a hockey album?
That's a good question. I've never done it.
Are there enough stories you could make great songs out of? I mean, I don't know how Chuck does it, quite honestly.
I don't either. There have been a lot of really great hockey songs done. My friend Ron Leary did several songs on an album. I think 2 or 3. He's from Windsor.
Okay.
And but there's lots of those great hockey songs. I don't know.
Something to consider.
Something to consider.
It would make sense. You've got the jersey. Make the album covers easy. Got that part
and then
worked
you
out.
got more swag.
That's right.
You got more merchandise.
Yes, the Mike Ward jersey. I'd buy that.
Yeah, definitely. I wrote some sailing songs on that have never gone anywhere. But I when I was doing that 30 songs in 30 days a couple of years ago, and there were a couple sailing songs out there. But I've never thought about doing hockey songs.
There you go. John's idea for Mike.
All right.
Where do the orphan songs go? Do they just lie in a box waiting for you to find a place for them? Or they maybe ever consider giving them to another singer? Or just do they think, oh, not quite good enough for public?
I never have. I've never been asked to, if I have any songs, that I'm not using.
This is your job.
I've got a stack of songs that I'm still reworking. I go to Lamb's retreat every year, and I guess my first 2 years I was sort of charmed, I guess, because I got 3 songs out of the first 2 years, cool. And then the last 2, my songs haven't made it out of. They got played on that Sunday, but I haven't really done anything with them since. So
they're not dead yet.
No, they're not. And I will say the project of 30 songs in 30 days I didn't realize it at the time how important that was, but it was really something that propelled me to go back to songs that I had never finished, or that I thought I had finished, but I really hadn't. And it taught me a lot about trying to find, different, instead of just settling for the same 3 changes all the way through the song. How can you make a different change somewhere so that you get an unexpected, sound, or you can let the chorus maybe swell more. You can do different things, and it was a really good exercise.
Cool. The new album again is Love Never Rests. There are lots of collaborations on this record and previous records. How do you decide who gets to be on what? Like, do you hear a song and go, oh, I think Amy Petty would sound great on that. I think the Giacomo Girls would sound great on that. Like, do you imagine that? Or does David help you with that?
The way that we've done all 3 of these albums is that I record my tracks first. So I'm doing guitar and vocal at the same time. I don't use a click track, and sometimes that can be a little frustrating for the other musicians who come in and play. But everybody has been great about that. We listen to them a lot. And I talked to Dave about it. I talked to Angie about it. And we sort of figure out who would be the best fit per song.
Sometimes you hear a song go, that would be better if it had a background vocal on it. Okay, because I mean, as a songwriter, I'm not a songwriter, but I don't know how I would know it needed background vocals or it needed extra vocals. And
right.
Somebody else said, hey, what would sound great on this?
And Mike Gentry said, after we recorded me and then we added all of the other instruments,
the players,
and the players, he said, okay, now we have to decide how much is enough for each song. So what can we pull away? Let's pull it all away and then add little bits and not let it get overdone.
Yeah, that happens too.
And the funny thing on that album was that on The Darkness and the Light is we had recorded all my parts by February of 2020.
Good timing.
And then we were just about to start bringing players in, and COVID hits. So, then I did 30 songs in 30 days. I was doing streaming. And then at a certain point, I think about August, maybe July, Dave was ready. He said, as long as it's one person at a time, I've got my studio set up so everybody can be separated. He and I would wear masks, and, we would take breaks, and, it was a longer process to do it, but we got everybody recorded that we wanted to.
Got done.
And
there they are.
yeah, and it
happened.
But the funny thing was, taking that long a break, I had to I was already moving on to songs for Particles to Pearls. I had written, like Back Again. I had written, a whole bunch of those songs. So I was like, I had to like sort of go back in my mind and go, oh yeah, we didn't finish that.
Cool. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation.
I have too.
I would like one more song from you if you
Okay.
don't mind.
All right.
What you pick.
All right. Well, I want to end on a lighter note. So
Is there a backstory?
just that we moved downtown and we downsized, and that's where this song came from. I think we did a little bit of prelude on this song, but it's a lot of fun to play. I'm going to use a pick for this. Got a compact car, whole lot easier to park. Fits in those hard-to-fit spaces, never a part of street drag races. Driving next to an SUV, well, I feel a little puny. It's good on gas, near and far. I got a compact car, oh yeah. Got a compact build, 5'5", still strong-willed. As a kid I was sort of stocky, bad for hoops, good for hockey. Wished I was tall and thin and maybe a bit more significant. No fashion sense, no frills. I got a compact build, oh yeah. I got a compact build. But I'm expanding my heart, stretching out my soul, letting my spirit span this entire earthly globe. Ain't gonna let this moment go. Got a compact disc, all it took was to take a few risks. Folks who believed in me, all my friends, my extended family. Got no vinyl or cassettes, nor many financial assets. Can anyone still play this? I got a compact disc, oh yeah. I got a compact disc. Right out there with the t-shirts and the koozies. Got a compact life. Some of you may wonder why. Downsized a few years ago. Here's what I've got to show. A smaller carbon footprint. A 42-year sacrament still makes me feel so alive. I got a compact life, oh yeah. I got a compact life, with a compact car and a compact build. I got a compact life, with a compact disc in a compact world. I got a compact life. Compact home, compact wife. I love my compact life.
Mike Ward of Mike Ward Psychosongs, Compact Life from the newest album, his Compact Wife. I want to thank for handling the video while he's performing, as I didn't, I wanted to put her to use. So thanks, Angie. I appreciate it.
I did want to mention one other person on the record that I don't think I mentioned was Larry LeBeck, who I met through this whole process, and what a charming guy. And and James Anthony, they play on that song, slide pedal steel and mandolin. Nice combination.
Have you thought about doing any band shows? Do you ever do band shows?
I did a band show last year.
A CD release?
For the CD release.
But not tour.
And it was overwhelming, to be honest with you. But I am doing shows. I did the show last week or 2 weeks ago with Sarah Gibson.
Okay.
And I'm going to do more of those.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, we are going to be the opening night of Harrisville Harbor Nights. Sarah and I are going to open that together.
What other summer concert plans can people find you at? Where else can we find you? Online as well. What is your website?
The website is psychosongs.com, and that has all the shows. I'm about to leave to go this week. I'm going to Akron for a show.
Okay.
And then when I get back from Surfa, I have a show in Grand Rapids on the 13th at the Stray with Kate Rose and Jeff Troutman. And then I go to Chicago, Wesley's Place, and then Milwaukee Coffee Shop. And then I come back here and I'm doing Berkeley Coffee with Steve
Taylor.
Steve Taylor with Annie Caps, and I don't know who the other person is. He told me, I don't remember. And I think on May 31st, I've got a show out in Brooklyn, Michigan.
Okay. Lots to look forward to then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. Good to see you. Great records. I mean, you're cranking them out, and they're coming out really nice. So bravo.
Thanks.
Kudos to you. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks to Grove Studios, as usual, for being excellent hosts and encouraging me to do this, as I've said many times. If you're a musician in the Ann Arbor, Detroit area looking for a place to practice, I strongly encourage you to look them up. Grove Studios in Ypsilanti, 24/7 operation, keypad, easy to get into with your number. Just think, you get your 2 hours or whatever you need to do your thing to do, and on your way, and nobody's annoyed by you. It's a great thing. I don't know for sure if there won't be another one in between this one and the next one I'm recording, because I have a few in the works. So keep your eyes on the podcast page. Subscribe if you will, and if you're interested in being a sponsor, I wouldn't turn you down. Let's put it that way. Thanks for listening.